But we do start tonight with that breaking news here on the 4th of July. Metro Police confirming to us tonight that a boat hit the 2nd Street Bridge and capsized. This is a live look for you. One of our photographers there on the scene. A lot of the information still coming in, still unclear. What police have told us, there were people rescued, but the number of people they have not been able to confirm or tell us. Our Kayla Moody told me she saw at least one person taken away by EMS. We do know there were people aboard a pontoon boat when it hit the 2nd Street Bridge, also known as the Clark Memorial Bridge. Another one of our staff members, Aaron Pryor, was on the scene, and he reported seeing some helicopters, or at least a helicopter, searching the surface of the water from above. Still a lot of questions unanswered. And we want to update you with new information on that breaking story we brought you at the beginning of this newscast. Louisville Fire now telling us there were 9 people on board that pontoon boat that capsized. Unfortunately, they tell us 2 people died after that boat capsized after hitting the 2nd Street Bridge. 4 people were rescued. There are still 3 people missing right now. Those rescue efforts ongoing as we speak. Again, 9 people aboard that pontoon boat. A very tragic story. Those people out there trying to celebrate the 4th of July. Their boat hit the 2nd Street Bridge. It capsized. 2 people dead, 4 rescued. 3 of those people still missing.
Well, the scene has just worsened, folks, and it is a sad development. Take a look. Fire, huge flames now coming from the rooftop. Sky 11 is zoomed in on the rooftop of the Whiskey Row project. Gives you an idea of just how intense this thing has been underway. We're seeing for the first time shooting through the roof. This, once again, is going to be with us for quite a while.
Well, Doug, I'll tell you what, I've never seen anything quite like this. Right now, we're more than 50 feet away from this building. This is the 3rd time that we've been moved in fear that this building could collapse. Now, take a look behind me. You can see just how far we are away from the scene. We can feel those flames that are shooting out of that building. We can feel the heat from them. We're all over here sweating because that fire is so strong. Most of us were talking about how just, in all the fires that all of us have covered before in this media staging area, none of us have ever really seen anything quite like this.
Well, Doug and Melissa, we've moved to the backside. We're on 1st in Washington. I want to get right out of the way. We've been kind of the floater crew for you all tonight. We started up at the Belvedere. You could see the smoke billowing over 64 in both directions, the bridges that connects us to Indiana. Then we moved to Market and 2nd, where we joined some of our other crew. I heard a piece of that briefing. And then we moved again down here where we are on the backside, 1st in Washington. The wall that you're seeing right now, Nathan, zoom in on that wall for us, please. That was higher up, and we've only been here 15 to 20 minutes.
Joe and I are on top of one of the parking structures here, just overlooking 1st and Main Street, just getting a firsthand look of these fire hoses tackling this fire from above, and we can see so much of the damage. We've got the brick facade that we continue to talk about, and we heard Tabby talking about watching some of those bricks crumble and hearing Joe say just how important those bricks are to the structure of these buildings, and we are watching from above as they come down.
Here at 8:27, we want to update you on that breaking news we've been talking about this morning. Firefighters are on the scene battling that house fire in Old Louisville in the 1100 block of South 2nd Street. Right now, we know that at least 2 people have already been taken to the hospital. We want to get straight to our Julia Rose, who is live at that very active scene there. Julia?
Well, Kelsey, a horrific scene here at South 2nd Street. I'll step out of the way so you can see it for yourself. Dozens of firefighters here, along with police, working to put out this house fire. You can see the heavy smoke, even some flames, and of course, all of the water all up at the top of that house. Crews are working really hard to put it out. I saw at least 3 people rescued from the house. In talking with neighbors, they say they saw at least 4, so it's not clear how many people have been removed, and it's also not clear if anyone is left inside. At one point, firefighters were told to evacuate. They started sounding the horn. All firefighters had to evacuate, but then they did go back inside to rescue a woman. A very, very horrific scene here. We, again, are not sure exactly how many people were taken to the hospital and how many people were inside, but we do know it was a 3-apartment unit, but neighbors say only 2 were occupied. We're working to get all of the information for you, and we'll bring you updates as soon as we learn more. Kelsey, back to you.
Thank you, Kent. Long before East Market Street became Nulu and the neighborhood with a must-see personality, and just 2 blocks away from what is now 4th Street Live, Louisville had an entire street that was electric and in the middle of the city. What happened to Walnut Street? It was the heart of Louisville's African-American community that opened its arms to everyone in segregated times. There was no woe on Louisville's amazing Walnut Street in the 1950s and early 60s.
It was the heart of the Mecca of the black community.
You begin to feel an up-tempo feeling once you hit Walnut Street.
That tempo meant the top blues and jazz singers in America at the time.
Now the blues will make you feel.
Helen Humes, a star born in Louisville, sang after high school on Walnut Street for Louisville's first black band.
That was my heart.
And the most famous blues star in the 50s, the Queen of the Blues, Detroit's Dinah Washington, came often to Walnut Street's Lyric and Grand Theaters.
There was always exciting buzz on Fridays. I mean, that's when people got paid. People were spending money. People went out for the first time that week for dinner. They engaged with their friends over a cocktail.
It was Louisville's Bourbon Street.
The block had a personality. It was alive and warm. It could be hypnotic and yet become robust and boisterous.
The action began at 6th Street in Walnut, what is now Muhammad Ali Boulevard.
As soon as you hit that and turn west, it was like Eureka. It was like my yellow brick road.
Stretching from 6th Street to the west, Walnut Street was row after row of banks, restaurants, nightclubs, apartments, homes, and people.
Anyone who came to Louisville, I can believe you, bet you, if they were black, touched Walnut Street because it was the heart.
Historian Ken Clay says in a time of segregation, when African Americans weren't even allowed to try on clothing at the stores 2 blocks over on 4th, Walnut Street was supported by whites.
Louisville was very unique in that it had a very strong relationship between the black power brokers of Louisville and the white power brokers of Louisville.
It was a very exciting time, and there were a large number of whites in Louisville who embraced Walnut Street and supported black commerce with their money, with their presence.
Getting the gold medal, it was real thrilling.
Cassius Clay, then Muhammad Ali, would parade after his victories here. Little did Ali know at the time this would later become his street. MLK marched on Walnut often, and one man grew up on it.
This was my street, and I owned every crack and every weed in those concrete sidewalks. Right here is Lucky Morris's pawn shop.
Take a look at this photo. Louisville sculptor Ed Hamilton grew up in the red brick building on the left of your screen. The family's apartment was on the upper floor overlooking Walnut. That picture is looking east, back to 4th Street from what is now 7th and Ali. The treasured picture now covers the entire wall at the Louisville Central Community Center. Sam Watkins zeroed in on what it captures.
I see all the cars parked there. It's probably because people work, during the day. So that's probably Saturday. You talking about all the cars on both sides.
So we went back to the same spot where this photo was taken to replicate the very same shot. It's a stunning view of what's been lost. What's lost is a 7-block stretch that generations in Louisville today would not even recognize as their own city. Bernadette Hamilton says the demolition altered a way of life.
A lot of business that could have been passed on to kids. A lot of after-school jobs.
You're talking about 3,000 and 4,000 people easily would be doing commerce and engaging in activity at any given time, especially on Fridays, between the hours of 4 to 10 o'clock. A very, very exciting, stimulating place to be at that time.
How did Louisville create a lost city within a city? How did 7 blocks in the heart of downtown disappear in 4 years? The answer is next. Louisville's Walnut Street, now Muhammad Ali Boulevard, is a shell of a once vibrant neighborhood. Out of nearly 150 buildings and homes, 1 remains. By the late 1960s, the destruction was easy, quick, and unchallenged. Urban Renewal, the 1950s and 60s federal program designed to save cities by tearing out blocks of old buildings, hit Walnut Street hard. In a short 4-year period, the 7 blocks, more than 100 buildings, from 6th to 13th, were leveled. Pictures from both the Filson Historical Society and U of L photo archives show the demolition as it happened. Buildings like this one, gone. Over here, another one, gone, gone, and gone. The only remaining building.
Only remaining building on this part of town right now, Walnut Street. That's right. Nothing else survived.
The Mammoth Life Insurance Building at 6th and Walnut housed the barber shop owned by Ed Hamilton's dad. You can see the shop in the front of the building. Mammoth Life is that only building from Walnut Street's heyday still standing. It is now River City Bank, covered with a facade. So your dad's shop was right here?
Right in this area, Yeah, in that space. Hello, Dad, are you in there?
Just like the old days.
Looks like the old days.
River City showed us
Gee whiz.
how Mammoth Life is still there.
In the last part of the early 60s, this is the last time I've seen this. All that's been torn down.
Behind the facade, upstairs, are the offices where insurance policies and bank loans were given to African-American customers. Mammoth was the largest African-American owned business in Kentucky.
Hearing people, all the machinery, the typing, and people talking.
Inside, you flash back to the late 60s. The paint is peeling, and in the window, the original curtains are still there from the day the place cleared out.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
In the basement, we found the printing presses that celebrated Mammoth's 1965 Service Club banquet honoring employees.
25th year service club of the Mammoth Life.
And architects' plans of the projects the company funded.
Looks really old here.
How did the Mammoth building survive the wrecking ball?
Mammoth Life sold insurance policies throughout the region and southern states. It was connected to a major investor in Atlanta. And so you had that kind of economic power there. And so they skipped that business on that side. On the north side, they tore down all the other business.
Urban renewal was devastating to more than just buildings.
When the neighborhoods go and the money goes and the people go, then your business suffers.
Urban renewal came through, and it just destroyed the whole area, meaning relationships were lost.
It just comes back to me, you know. I look over and I say, oh, there's so-and-so, oh, there's so-and-so over there.
Louisville's African-American community was vibrant. The only African-American library in Louisville at the time still stands at 10th and Chestnut. And from that barbershop, one little boy learned about the world around him from the waiters who worked at the Old House restaurant across from the Cathedral of the Assumption.
They'd come down here, get the haircut, get the shoes shined, you know. I'd be listening to all those old cats talking the talk.
Urban renewal was an acknowledged disaster for Walnut Street.
It just ripped out the heart.
With nothing left but empty lots in November of 1978, by a 6-5 vote, the city's aldermen voted to rename Walnut Street Muhammad Ali Boulevard. WHAS covered what happened next. 12 of the 70 brand new signs were stolen.
I hate to leave you now.
3 years later, Louisville's Helen Humes died.
Wish that I could stay somehow so long.
By that time, she'd become an international blues star. So big, the New York Times assigned a reporter to write her obituary. In it, she says of Louisville, I was never a person to stay away from home too long. And the legacy of that street, as big as the hits, belted out by the woman born right around the corner.
Bringing together people around the civil rights movement.
Everybody there knew everybody.
We think Louisville is much better off because it had a Walnut Street.
So long, so long.
Well, desegregation also helped speed up the view that Walnut Street needed to go. African Americans were shopping and moving elsewhere in Louisville. But East Market Street sat empty with most of its original buildings until Gil Holland turned it into New Lou by 2008. One can only imagine that if the old Walnut Street district had been saved, maybe it would have been the first to come back alive.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Well, 1 year after being in a gas explosion while on the job, and tonight, a Southern Indiana man is sharing his story.
We have an I-Team exclusive tonight. His story isn't just about what happened to him. He says it's about what also could happen to you. WHAS 11's Renee Murphy has the exclusive interview and tells us what he says could be a hidden danger at a restaurant or a bar. Renee?
That's right, Doug. A severed artery, a broken femur, a metal rod in his leg. This all happened to an employee of Famous Dave's in Clarksville, Indiana last year. And for the first time, he is sharing his story in this WHAS 11 News exclusive. He says it goes beyond the explosion that injured him. He says it's a safety concern for us all. It was the Sunday after Valentine's Day last year at Famous Dave's in Clarksville, Indiana.
Heard a boom and I felt the pain.
What Ricky Garner felt was a gas explosion that burned through his leg and wrist while he was bartending in the restaurant.
I'm kind of happy that it happened to me and no one else there, because I'm probably the biggest guy that works there, and that probably would have nearly killed someone else.
This is the carbon dioxide tank used for dispensing soft drinks and beer that ruptured and exploded. Garner says it wasn't even being used when it all happened.
As I'm making the drink, I hear a loud boom and a boom and a buzz.
Garner was rushed to the hospital with a broken femur, injuries to his elbow, and a severed artery in his wrist. For this local former basketball standout, it's tough knowing he'll never be able to get back out on the court.
In the back of my head, I know I'll never play again.
These pictures show the inside of the tank that exploded. Garner is planning to sue to protect others. His attorney says the corrosion in the 47-year-old tank should have been detected. I called the Department of Transportation that inspects the tanks. I was told that for the most part, these types of tanks are only inspected every 5 years.
Scary for employees, scary for patrons, scary for anybody that is at or near any kind of tank like that.
And these types of tanks are in bars and restaurants all across the country. Attorney Larry Wilder says it's unclear if the tanks are even inspected every 5 years.
There's absolutely no question in my mind that as we sit here today, there are tanks filled with flammable gases, explosive gases that are put out into the flow of commerce that have not been inspected.
After what Garner has been through, he has one message.
Let's inspect them a little more often.
And Garner's attorney says that a company called Scott Gross made that tank that exploded. We called their corporate communications for their side of the story, but we have not heard back from them yet. Garner still works at Famous Dave's and says since the explosion, tanks have been moved to another area of the restaurant. He says other local restaurants have taken similar measures. In the newsroom, Renee Murphy, WHAS 11 News.
And more to come tonight, correct?
Yeah, we will see that second round moving through. But Jared, thankfully things are looking a little bit more quiet right now. We still just have some flash flood warnings around the area.
Yeah, some scattered downpours, no severe thunderstorm warnings, but earlier in the day, quite a bit in the way of some wind damage, some incredible damage coming from Kayla's live shot up there at Seymour. We're going to have that coming up in just a second. So over the next few hours, the thing you need to know is we're just in waiting, really.
We really are.
For the next batch of storms.
And Jared, the good news is they did cancel, or hadn't been allowed to expire, that flash flood warning for eastern sections of Jefferson County. But we still have a flash flood warning that we'll monitor here over the next hour or so for western Jefferson County. This does extend it up just south of the Salem area. Again, that one goes until about 6 o'clock. But no severe thunderstorm warnings out there at the moment. That line has really weakened around the area. But watching still some scattered showers and thunderstorms, some heavier downpours right now around the Lebanon area. This extends up just south of Bardstown, Shepherdsville, and Bullitt County, looking at some very strong storms there. You can see all the lightning from these storms that continue to push down to the south and east. One really strong storm right now in southern Nelson County. And again, we'll watch these very closely, but no severe storms at the moment. A closer look here along I-65 just south of Shepherdsville. Lots of lightning towards Lebanon Junction. And then even here towards New Haven, just south of Bardstown, extending over towards Lebanon. This is still where we have a lot of the activity. Metro Louisville, though, you're pretty much looking at some dry conditions right now. We're looking at some clear conditions also up towards French Lick, Indiana. That was not the case, though, earlier. I know we've had lots of viewer pictures being sent in here. You could see this is on our tag board right now. Lots of scary clouds. I know lots of folks sending in pictures of some shelf clouds, lots of rainfall pictures, even lots of lightning strikes here. And we're getting lots of viewer reports out there of those power lines down out towards Seymour. Kayla, of course, will have an update on that. And you can see this picture here sent in from Madison, Indiana, a powerful lightning strike there. Of course, take these pictures if you can safely, and you can send those over to your photos at WHAS11.com. Thank you, Corey, for sending that one in. We also have this picture here. You can easily pick out the shelf cloud there. I want to thank Myra for sending this one, and this is out at the Outlet Mall in Springfield, Kentucky, as those storms managed to march on through. We have more pictures here. New Washington, Indiana. Thank you to Amber for sending this one, and a little bit of street flooding flooding going on there, and also lots of cloud cover in this picture, dark clouds rolling in. Lena, thank you for sending this one in as, again, those storms continue to move through Kentuckiana. But let's take you back outside right now. This is in French Lick, Indiana, looking at things really starting to heat up there. I know in the metro right now we still have temperatures right around 75 degrees. So we're starting to rebound a little bit more with these temperatures, but because of the rainfall, those storms that moved on through, we really have managed to cool down. We topped out in the low 90s. This afternoon, you can see that humidity already back up to 87%. Winds out of the southeast at 10 miles per hour. I'm going to show you this because we're looking at, again, that second round that'll be developing mainly back out to our west. You can see they have all the fuel for these showers and storms. St. Louis coming in at 98 degrees. And of course, once you factor in that humidity, look at what it feels like out towards St. Louis, 112, Paducah 102, Evansville feeling like 102 out there. So they have all that fuel for those showers and storms starting to fire up. So this is the area that we're going to watch out very closely for our showers and storms for later on this evening and also through the overnight hours. And that's why we're under still this moderate risk. Again, this goes for tonight into early tomorrow morning. This is just second from being the highest. Of course, high risk is up there on the chart, but for us today under this moderate category, they really don't issue that very often. But I do think we'll have some quiet time out there, at least for a few hours for this evening. You can see here on Futurecast, but then by later on this evening, after about 9 or 10 o'clock for tonight, we may see some of these storms firing up to our north. But through the overnight hours, we're going to watch this very carefully. Damaging winds will still be a primary threat, along with flooding. Of course, we've had so much rainfall here over the last couple of days, 2 to 3 inches from that storm Saturday night into Sunday, and even, of course, more rainfall from earlier this morning into the early afternoon hours. So these storms will continue at least through the early part of the morning hours on Tuesday, maybe a few more showers and storms by Tuesday afternoon. Rainfall amounts 1, 2, maybe even 3 inches, depending on where these storms start to set up and kind of train over the same area. So here's what you need to know for this evening, for tonight. More storms will be on the way, so we're not out of the clear just yet. Wind damage, flash flooding will be the primary threat, so be prepared. We're going to keep you informed here, of course, all evening long on WHS 11, on air, online, mobile devices. We're going to keep you posted on Twitter and, of course, on Facebook, and the entire team will continue to be here as well with more updates, of course, this evening and for tonight. But we're going to look for possibly the heat to develop later on in the work week. I'll talk more about that and have an update on the storms that we have across the area, guys, coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Kristen, thank you very much. Well, we have been talking to authorities across the region during the storms as they were hitting. The most damage happened north of Louisville in southern Indiana, and WHS 11's Kayla Moody is in Seymour, Indiana right now, where wind gusts near 70 miles an hour were reported as the storm approached there. Kayla?
Well, Doug, beautiful weather here now. People who I've talked to who witnessed this storm say it came in very quickly and those winds were just roaring. And you can see some of the damage behind me. There are about 10 power poles that have been knocked down in this storm. Take a look. There's about 3 right there that have been snapped in half. And now as you walk along this street, this is Tipton Street in Seymour. This is the heart of Seymour. Most of these businesses that you see on this side of the road are all closed because they're all without power right now. You can see that some of the lines are actually down on this car dealership over here. There have been several lines that have fallen on vehicles. Another snapped pole right here in front of the speedway. And as we make our way down this way, you can see where this damage continues. Again, about 10 poles affected in this storm. You can see them as you go down there. There's one that's tilted, and there's actually 2 trucks that are stabilizing that pole so that it also does not snap in half. There are crews on scene trying to keep the other pole from breaking as they work on that half snapped. Now look at this one right here. This one is right behind us where we're going live. This was a pole that fell down as well. This is on the other side of the road. Most of the damage we've seen has been on the opposite side. This one, of course, right by us. Now, it seems like this was mostly a wind event here in Seymour. A little further south when we were driving up I-65 to get here today, we saw a lot of flooding in Scott County. So it looks like they're dealing with more water here, but of course, heavy wind damage here in Seymour. Back to you guys.
All right, Kayla, thank you so much. Well, the storm roared through Indiana, then moved right into Louisville and did not cause major damage or even huge power outages. But some neighborhoods in Louisville's East End did lose some power. WHS 11's Tabney Dozier has more on the effort to get power restored. She's at Shelbyville and Hurstbourne Lane where the traffic lights are out. What a mess there. Tabney?
Mess is the perfect word to sum it up, Doug. In the midst of rush hour, you wouldn't know that we had storms. It's beautiful and sunny out here, but let me get out the way and show you this intersection right now. Absolute mess. It's at a standstill as far as the eye can see. So let me kind of walk you through myself and my photographer, Aaron Michael, our journey so far. We were out on Broadsfield Drive for reports of power outage. That's not too far from 64 and Cannons Lane. And then we started to make our way east. We got word about this outage right now. Sorry, I'm getting out of your way. You can see how far it goes east as well. We were getting word about this outage, and then we were stuck in this for at least 15 minutes. And then we realized it was this important intersection, such a busy thoroughfare here as we're in the rush hour, about 10 after 5 on this Monday afternoon. Not too long ago, we did just see some Metro Safe employees. They parked here. We're actually set up in the Speedway, if you're familiar with this area, right here at the corner. We saw Metro Safe come, and they worked on the electrical box. We weren't able to get and talk to them getting ready for this live hit, but it is not fixed right now. So again, every single direction, traffic is stopped. Treating this, of course, as a four-way stop, but I could count before I went on air at least 6 near accidents that happened from either impatient drivers or, not paying attention. I'm watching it with my very own eyes. You definitely want to be careful. If you can avoid this area, I'd recommend it. No timeline right now, so we are working to get those answers for you as to when this intersection will be fixed. But again, knee deep in our rush hour on this Monday. Traffic northeast, southwest at a standstill. You want to treat this intersection as a four-way stop. We'll stand by in case you all want to check in with us a little later on in the newscast. And also follow me on Twitter at WHAS11 Tabney for those updates, and we'll check back in with you soon.
All right, that intersection's bad even when the lights are working.
Right, it's a very, very busy intersection. Thank you very much, Tabney. We appreciate it. We want to go now to our Reed Yaden. He's in Elizabethtown, Kentucky with Storm Chase 11, talking about the weather there. A little thunder and lightning, according to radar. Reed?
Indeed, radar verifies right here. We're just getting some light rain in Elizabethtown now. But let's look off to the west. Very ominous clouds there. That's associated with a cell that moved down, dropped down out of Corydon, and it's still producing quite a bit of rain just to our north now. As we go to roof cam, you can look to the north and see the ominous clouds there up around New Haven. They're getting very heavy rain passing through New Haven about 25 minutes ago. We got into the heavy rain for a while, so this cell is still pretty active. No warnings on it as far as thunderstorm activity go, but it's still a very heavy thunderstorm cell. Tops on it running in excess of 50,000 feet. But down here at the present time, kind of a lull before the next batch comes through. All of the damage so far, you saw it from Kayla, about 75 miles to the north, up around Jackson County there in Seymour. Live in Storm Chase 11, I'm Reed Yaden.
Thank you so very much, Reed. And we have continuing coverage of the severe weather on air and online, on Twitter as well. And please use the hashtag WHAS11Storm. Online, follow the forecast at WHAS11.com.
This extreme weather may be to blame for the death of a homeless man here in Louisville. Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher held a moment of silence today for Kenneth Winfield. He did so at his regular news conference where he's been briefing folks on the weather conditions and how the city's been handling in the pending winter storm warning. WHAS 11's Michaela McDonald is joining us with the story. Michaela?
Well, Doug, it was a somber start to this meeting today with that moment of silence held for Kenneth Winfield, who passed away after being found on the steps of the homeless shelter he frequented in the cold last night. And here's a picture of Winfield. It's from his ID card with the Coalition for the Homeless. And the director of St. John's Shelter, Maria Price, who knew Winfield well, says it really doesn't do justice to how handsome he was. And Price told us Winfield would come to their shelter, it's a day shelter, a few times a week, and whenever he was there, he would be helping. He'd pick up trash, sweep, and mop, and she says he's always somebody that they could count on. And she says this loss is made even more heartbreaking because he was trying desperately to get into subsidized permanent housing, but was not considered one of the most vulnerable.
Right at the first cold snap, he and I entered the shelter at about the same time. So we were close to the front door, and we both had cold hands, but I was holding his cold hands, and he started crying, and he said, "Miss Maria, please help me get housing. I don't want to die out there. I don't want to die out there." And he started to get worked up, almost panicking, for good reason. He had spent the night out. And This is a situation where we didn't have enough housing resources and flexible housing resources soon enough to save his life.
And Price said she doesn't know why he would have been out on those steps last night because he knows it is just a day shelter. She said he might have been walking to the tent that he shared with his girlfriend that's nearby that area, and he might have stopped to rest at somewhere he felt safe. And Winfield's autopsy is still pending. Michaela McDonald, WHAS 11 News.
Thank you very much, Michaela. And overnight, close to 30,000 people in Hardin County lost power during these dangerously cold temperatures. KU and Noland Rural Electric say a service line and a transmitter went down. Both have since been fixed, and everyone who had been affected now has electricity. WHAS 11's Tabney Dozier has been in Radcliffe, one of the hardest hit areas for this outage, and she joins us now live with more. Tabney.
Well, Melissa, dozens of people were popping in and out of here. I'm at the Colvin Community Center. It's right next to the Radcliffe Police Department. The city even brought in a trolley to help get people to and from this warming center. Those side roads are still in terrible shape here. But we were along for the best part of the day, and that's people being able to walk into their homes and turn on their lights. A route they've taken so many times. But what a journey it was this time. Old Man Winter kicked Aaron and Samantha Jamison out of their apartment late Thursday night. They're one of more than 26,000 people who lost power.
I want his stuff, I want your stuff, let's go. I wanted to make sure that they stayed warm.
The situation becomes a little more hectic with a 3-month-old baby needing constant care.
They got your bag.
Dozens kept warm here at Colvin Community Center in Radcliffe until their lights came back on.
We had coffee, milk, juice, snacks. I mean, we had blankets up there for us to lay our head down. I mean, it was nice, and anything we needed, if they could help, they helped.
It is a humbling experience being at the mercy of someone else's resources.
About 3 years ago, I was in foster care, and I went up to Kentuckiana and helped with the tornado relief up there, and now I know how those people feel. It opens my eyes, it really does. I mean, I was more than happy to help them, but you know, I'm glad that there was people that was able to help us.
Blankets and a warm building is all that's needed to bring a smile to many faces here in Hardin County.
I opened the door, I saw them lit up, I'm like, yes.
A simple flick of a switch is enough to brighten up the Jamisons' day. Their power is back on. I have some new information since I last saw you at 4 o'clock. Alicia Tucker, she works here at the community center. She's been manning it all day long. She tells me that the weekend warming shelter is actually going to be at Firehouse number 1. That's on Wilson Road in Radcliffe. Then if that gets too full, then Colvin Community Center is going to open as an overflow location. Now, if you lose power with this crazy weekend weather that we have coming in, if you need transportation, you are urged to call Radcliffe Police. That number is 270-351-4470. Reporting live in Radcliffe, Tabney Dozier, WHAS 11 News.
Tabney, thank you. And with the threat of possible flooding this weekend, MSD is working to clear local street drains, but they are saying they don't expect any major flooding to threaten the city. Crews are busy clearing those drainage basins. So far, 100 critical catch basins are clog-free, but more need to be cleared of debris. WHAS 11's Karma Dickerson's been following this story today. She's live tonight. Karma?
I guess you said 100 of those critical catch basins have been cleared, but there are nearly 70,000 in the city, so that's still much more work to do. Luckily, MSD says they expect the vast majority of people aren't going to have any problems with tomorrow's weather. They expect those drains to clear just fine. However, if you do live in one of those areas of concern, they are asking you to keep an eye on it. But for most of the city, they say you can definitely just take a wait-and-see approach. It's hard to imagine these MSD workers are worried about weather other than the negative 5-degree wind chills as they walk up and down the street searching for stormwater drains. But it's actually tomorrow's forecast that has them shoveling.
We're going through the metro area to clear out the catch basins for tomorrow. When the rain does come, the water will have somewhere to escape, go into our storm system, instead of staying on the road and freezing it up and causing a hazard for the drivers.
I've been missing my little babies. Drivers like Jackie Frost, who after 5 snow days is ready to get back to teaching her second graders at Audubon Traditional School. She's hoping the road will be safe by Monday morning because her Linview neighborhood has a history of mild flooding.
It just kind of depends on the whim of the weather.
Today, workers went block to block through neighborhoods like Linview, responding to residents concerned the ice and snow currently blocking their stormwater drains wouldn't clear with tomorrow's expected rains and cause water and later ice in the roadway. While MSD is welcoming proactive calls, they say in the vast majority of cases, snow blocking catch basins will melt tomorrow without a problem, clearing the way for water to drain uninterrupted. So they're asking people without a history of flooding to simply wait and see.
And that's what we want to address is tomorrow, if there are any catch basins that are blocked, that we can come out and clean those up.
And the key word there at MSD is tomorrow if you're seeing issues. And we do have a number on our screen for you to call if you do find yourself with some blocked drains tomorrow. Another thing, MSD warned against people getting out today and trying to clear those drains themselves. They say just really the temperatures and the conditions are too dangerous for people to be out shoveling in the street with the ice. However, tomorrow when we are expecting that warm up, they say conditions may be a little better. So if you feel you can safely clear your own drain tomorrow, they'd welcome the help. Reporting live from downtown Louisville, Carmen Dickerson, WHAS 11 News.
Right now on 11 at 11, the devastating loss for downtown Louisville.
It is absolutely nauseating.
Historic Whiskey Row now up in flames.
Our fire might destroy this structure, but it's not going to destroy the history of our city.
This massive fire hitting the heart of downtown Louisville's revitalization efforts hard. Right now on 11 at 11.
On your side, this is WHAS 11 News.
And that thick smoke covered parts of downtown Louisville this afternoon. Still tonight at this very hour, nearly 7 hours since that fire began, firefighters remain on the scene, knocking down hot spots of the Whiskey Row fire. We have live in-depth team coverage for you with the history of Whiskey Row, reaction from the mayor to all this devastating news, to the investigation and what we know so far. WHAS 11 has all the angles covered for you tonight. We begin with our Doug Prophet. He is live at the scene, still very active out there, Doug.
Well, Renee, you know, if you love this town, you love its history. This is certainly hard to take, especially for what was planned for the future here. But we are near at the 7-hour mark, and there is some news we can tell you. The good news, the majority of the fire is out. It was under control at 7:20 this evening. Take a look at the scene right now. Hot spots continue to flare up. We are zooming in on the 3rd floor where the fire department is pouring in water. You might see flashing right above it in the 4th floor. Those are the hot spots I'm talking about. And occasionally the water streams will go away. They think they've got it really out, and then the hot spots flare back up. Just to show you the intensity of the flames, and no wonder you're talking 100-year-old buildings that were warehouses for bourbon barrels at one time. All wood, all brick. Well, we learned a lot of new information about the fire tonight. It's firefighting. The fire chief said at one point there was an explosion when they entered in the basement area back behind that building. WHAS 11's Kayla Moody is live over on 1st in Main where the firefighting effort continues, and she has more on what the mayor and the fire department said a few moments ago. Kayla?
Well, the fire department believes this fire may have started in the basement of this structure. When they first arrived on scene, they say fire was rushing through the basement and the 1st level. Now, that operation quickly turned into a defensive operation, but tonight they can report that the fire is finally mostly out. Flames shoot through the rooftop of Whiskey Row. Firefighters work for 3 hours before the fire is under control.
The size of the fire has gone down. We've been able to make progress. However, along the way, we've experienced a couple of collapses. Some floors collapsed, and some of the walls on the outer edge and also on the rear have collapsed.
Flooring and walls collapsed, but miraculously, the building's facade stood tall through the fire.
There's a lot of steel that goes deep, that goes back, a series of braces, steel braces that go back. And so I will say this, you know, the people that did that bracing of those facades did an excellent job.
The steel braces are a recent addition, the work of developers renovating the property. That work will now be harder, but because of the effort they've already put in and the firefighters' careful attention to the historic structure, the building is not a total loss.
Well, Whiskey Row, in my mind, is one of the great blocks in all of America. It has been, and it will be. Okay, so what this is going to do is this is going to make the story of Whiskey Row even more fabulous once we get past this. I know it's hard to see that right now.
The Whiskey Row fire was a dangerous situation for the 75-plus firefighters working to put it out and the dozens of people in surrounding businesses. But amazingly, no one was hurt.
We're really excited about the fact that, number one, no one was injured in this incident, and that we were able to save the property and keep the adjacent properties safe.
Most important thing here is nobody's lost their life. Tremendously lucky on that. This could have been far worse from that, so we're thankful for that.
And fire crews continue to work to put out hot spots. That's what they're doing right now, and what you're seeing with that water rushing in through those windows. We're told that crews will be on fire watch throughout the night. They will remain on scene at least until tomorrow morning. We're told that we will have a briefing at 9 a.m. At that point, fire crews are going to kind of assess the situation again and see where they are. And from then, they'll decide their next move. Back to you, Doug.
Kayla, thank you so much. And right near where Kayla is standing, the largest employer on this part of Main Street right now is Humana in the Waterside building, an historic old Belknap warehouse itself. Those employees were not told to evacuate. They sheltered in place. And a few moments ago, we talked to Humana employee Brandy Burden about what it was like when the fire started burning and was first noticed.
They were like, yes, the building next door is on fire. And I was like, are you serious? I'm like, is that what I've been smelling the last couple hours now? And so, yeah, I didn't realize that the building next door was actually on fire.
Again, take a look at this amazing scene just right over my shoulder. Again, you are directly looking at Main Street, the frontage of those buildings that housed old whiskey companies at one time. Take a look at how the firefighters are handling this right now. To the left, right where the green fire ladder, it's illuminated green, heavy water going in. And now to the right, they're bringing in heavy water from the side. They're handling this hot spot both from the left and the right, pouring thousands of gallons of water on it. Here still at 11 o'clock. Again, this fire first spotted at 4:35 this evening. Well, there are people who live down in this area, and WHAS 11's Tabney Dozier caught up with someone who needed their dog rescued at the height of all this. She's telling that story tonight live. Tabney?
Well, that's right, Doug. This has been our vantage point all night. Myself, photographer Nathan Davis, we've been in charge of First and Washington. Take a look. Piece by piece, we have literally watched this wall crumble down. But I tell you what, we have found a bright spot to this unfortunate and dark day. We followed Amy Candle's journey to be reunited with her puppy Emma, who was locked in her kennel on the 4th floor of her Whiskey Row apartment. The moment Amy Candle and her puppy pit bull Emma are reunited is a moment no flames could burn.
I just felt so bad that even though the fire was contained, I couldn't get her. And I knew she was scared in her kennel.
But let's backtrack. This story has legs just like this precious pooch. We met Candle on the opposite side of Monday's massive Whiskey Row loft fire. We were set up on 1st and Washington Streets. There she stood, a worried mother trying to get through the red tape.
I got up and said, hey, is this building on fire? So I was scared and said, Emma's there. So I just tried to beat the traffic as fast as I could to get here. I was on the other side, so all I saw was just black smoke. You know, I didn't know that it was clear on this side, so I was begging all the cops to just let the firefighters know that she was in there.
But a persistent woman who refused to leave the scene decided standing was not enough. So she walked and walked and walked until this 4-month-old was back in her mother's arms.
You know, you can't tell the firemen to, hey, stop, my pet's more important than, you know, they gotta do their job and do the fire first and contain that, because you don't want anyone else to get hurt, but it was just awful.
More than 80 firefighters, thousands of tons of water, and multiple trucks battled this blaze. But for Candle, she tells me everything inside her Whiskey Loft apartment is replaceable. But this, a mother's love knows no limits. And you can still see right now on Washington Street 2 hoses active at this hour. I think there are a couple more trucks back there, but you can still see 2 hoses spraying, checking for hot spots right now. Now you hear us say, viewers, team coverage, and that's to the point where we cover multiple angles, but to the point where I can't even see some of my coworkers. I have to give a big thank you to political editor Joe Arnold. Joe knows everyone in this market. I said, Joe, I'm with this woman. She's desperately trying to find her dog. What should we do? And he was the one who helped me get in contact with the firefighters. I definitely cannot take all the credit. A big thank you to shine a little bit of light on this very sad day. Firefighters, of course, have evacuated this building for all businesses and tenants until further notice. Emma and Amy, they're doing just fine tonight, staying with family and friends, and they'll be waiting to get back in once they are allowed. Our coverage continues. I'll send it back to you, Doug.
Tabney, I love your story, and for this reason, it really shows what's at stake down in this area. People are living down here. They have their pets. They take them for walks. It's like what you hear about in the suburbs is actually happening in downtown Louisville, all around this Whiskey Row area. That was the next hot spot. We're going to talk about a little later of what exactly that project was going to be. Well, a few moments ago, right before 11 o'clock, I noticed a man pulling the lot right next to us, started taking pictures. His name's Michael Sellers from Los Angeles, and he told me, I'm visiting this area, driving through. We don't have 100-year-old buildings in Los Angeles like this. I had to see what happened.
Right now what runs through my mind is seeing how much people care about it, how much the city really cares about keeping the history to the city and not letting it just let it take it, let it crumble, let it fall in on itself and save the buildings around it instead. You know, it's nice to see that they're working really hard to make sure that everything stays as best as it can.
Again, he was so impressed that people really care. There's a large crowd out here now still of sightseers. Coming up in just a couple of minutes here live at 11, we're going to be talking to Craig Greenberg. He's part of the group that owns those buildings that have been on fire today. He's been down here examining it. We'll get the latest from him in just a moment. But first, Renee, right back to you.
All right, great coverage from our crews out there. Lots of great stories, good information coming out there from Whiskey Row this evening. Well, our viewers have been posting lots of comments and plenty of pictures, and we do want to show you some of the things that you've been posting on social media through Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I'm going to step out here so you can see some of the pictures here. This is one picture that was from our reporter, Kayla Moody, from earlier today. This was in an area that was sort of known as the collapse zone earlier today. We saw what happened as the day went on with that fire. I want to continue to show you some more pictures here. This photo was sent to us. This is from what it looks like. This is Matthew who sent us this picture, showing a picture that his friend sent him of that Whiskey Row fire. More pictures here for you tonight. You can see now underneath that rubble there, those are cars that are under there. Some of the bricks fell from that wall right there. This posted Amanda Lambert saying that the bricks fell there. She had that picture. And then this is from the other side. This is from the back side. A 6-story high-rise flames now at Whiskey Row fire in downtown Louisville. That was posted by Chris Watson. So we do thank you for all the pictures that you've shown us this afternoon and throughout the day. Again, more pictures coming in from Ashley here. You can see what it was like at the height of that storm, of that fire. And throughout the day here, we are going to continue throughout the night updating you up to the minute information. You can count on WHAS 11 to stay on top of this fire. We'll have you updated on Good Morning Kentucky again, and we start that at 4:30, and then you can stay with us throughout the night again on WHAS11.com, and you can follow us on social media as well. And we do have more breaking news for you this evening, this time from the Ohio River. Crews believe they've pulled the body of one of the 3 missing boaters in the Ohio River. They made that discovery just after 8 o'clock this evening. A recovery mission will continue tomorrow to find the bodies of 2 people presumed drowned after a pontoon boat carrying 9 people crashed over the weekend. A 12-year-old boy who was on that boat says that they were idling and too close to a barge, turned on to the engine to try and steer away from it, but it was too late. 5 of the 9 people aboard ended up in the water. 2 were killed. 4 others were injured. Now the search is on now for the final 2 remaining people.
And I'm Doug Proffitt again, live on the scene here where the fire is still being extinguished. As you take a look, they've got water going in now to the 4th floor, into the 3rd floor. Coming up right after this, we'll talk to Craig Greenberg. His group saved these buildings from demolition, and it's the work they may have been doing the last few years to shore them up that could save those facades. Find out what we're learning late tonight right after this.
Still very warm out there, 80 degrees and dry here in the metro. By tomorrow morning, we're back in the 70s. A chance of some rain off and on for your Tuesday, and that rain could start in the morning hours. That complete 7-day forecast. All the details in a few minutes.
Cars crushed, buildings up in flames, the fate of historic Whiskey Row after this devastating fire. The rest of the story continues right now. And we are going live back out to the scene right now. Our Doug Profit is standing by with an important interview. Doug.
Well, Craig Greenberg has been out here since the fire started. His group, Main Street Revitalization, saved these buildings from demolition a few years ago, then started putting money into them to shore them up. As we look at this right now, do you think you'll be able to save the facades, or are they in danger of crumbling?
We are very hopeful that we can save the facades. The firefighters from the Louisville Fire Department have done an excellent job, not just putting out the fire today, but also trying to be as careful as possible to keep these facades intact.
Now, we went in the building with you just a couple of years ago, and we're going to show folks the video of what it looked like inside. All wood, a lot of brick. Is this fire for your project a deal breaker? Are you all going to walk away from the planned project that you had, or are you sticking with it?
Not at all. Our group is committed. We've been in close contact with all of the investors and partners in our group, and we are committed to continuing moving forward with this project. We are very pleased that the facades appear to be saved, and we'll start tomorrow morning with a structural engineer to figure out how to ensure they're saved for the long term again, and get back right at it, developing a plan.
Because your project would go right up next to the old Forester Distillery experience. Those buildings weren't damaged by this too badly. You were going to put a restaurant and some other things in there?
That's correct. The restaurant, offices, and apartments. And again, we hope and plan to still continue to do that. I think what today has shown, the outpouring of support from the community just in the past few hours since this fire happened, the focus of the media on this event really shows how important these historic buildings, this historic district, are to making Louisville uniquely Louisville. And I think it says something about this community, about how important it is, and we're committed to continue the preservation and restoration work.
Now, I saw the fire department has complimented you guys for the steel work, the trusses you put in there. They weren't there 100 years ago, but you all put them in a few years ago to shore them up. Most likely has kept the facades intact. I saw the contractor standing with you at the 8:30 news conference. Do you have any early theories as to what could have happened, Craig? How big of a crew was working here?
Well, it's too early to speculate on the cause of the fire, but I am proud of the work that our extended team has done to immediately, when we got control of the buildings, to preserve the facades, the adjacent buildings, the adjacent facades, and it sounds like from what the fire department has told us that in large part helped save the facades and save everything that has been able to be saved, notwithstanding the force of the water that now has been putting out the fire for hours.
Are you getting any indication that this was anything but just an accident?
It's too early to speculate on what the cause of this fire was, but the Louisville Fire Department has an excellent team that's been investigating this since the second this fire happened. They've stayed in close contact with us, and we're confident we'll find out what caused this fire.
All right, Craig Greenberg, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. As he says, the project moves forward once they can figure out the next move and they get in there. Well, what was this whole special project supposed to be? Our Michaela McDonald is taking an in-depth look at the plans tonight. Michaela?
Well, Doug, the developers are hoping that Whiskey Row will be like a phoenix and rise from these ashes. They had come so far in developing this project, from getting the funding, both public and private, that they needed to save the buildings from demolition, to, we're told, before this fire, they were very, very close to signing their first lease with a restaurant.
Louisville's historic Whiskey Row, saved from the wrecking ball in 2011, in the process of being redeveloped, only to be ravaged by this fire.
Oh, I was really heartsick. I mean, it's a real tragedy because we had really lined up some great stuff.
Whiskey Row co-developer Val Jones says they had come so far in the revitalization of these 5 buildings. She gave WHAS 11 a tour of the progress last year. The developers had sold 2 of the buildings to Brown-Forman just in the past month, and she says they were very close to signing their first lease with an 8,000 square foot restaurant and had other entertainment and office projects in the works.
We were actively talking to a 3rd restaurant from out of state that would have been bringing in dancing and live music. We're actively talking in negotiations with a potential office user So we have gotten very far into the process. And
Jones says while the development team is heartbroken by this setback, they're still dedicated to breathing new life into Whiskey Row.
It will be hard work. We have lost a lot. We've lost a lot of the cool interior features of these buildings. There's no getting around that. But if the fire department can save the facades and can save enough of the walls, the party walls, to make it structurally stable, and if we can come behind them and stabilize them more, then I think we can come back and we can still bring in great restaurants and live music venues and apartments and a lot of life back to Whiskey Row. This is a determined team. We have overcome a lot of obstacles in the past. We sure didn't see this one coming. But I think this team is very deeply committed to historic revitalization of our historic buildings.
And Jones says she is so thankful for the work of the firefighters out here today working to save some of these historic facades. She said usually they are saving lives, but today they're saving history, and it's truly a one-of-a-kind block out here, Whiskey Row. And she says that she's also received a lot of feedback from the community, lots of people calling and texting, even coming up to her here on the scene, saying how important they think these buildings are to the city. And she said that it was very nice to have that kind of community reaction. Michaela McDonald, 11 at 11.
Michaela, thank you. Keep in mind, folks, Main Street is blocked. I mean, it is blocked several blocks in this area. If I were you in the morning, I'd get up and with Good Morning Kentuckiana, first thing I'd be tuning in to see how you're going to get into downtown Louisville in the morning. It's humid, it's hot, there wasn't much wind today, and I know we're talking to meteorologist Jared Heil tonight along with Renee about the conditions, the weather conditions as they were trying to put out this fire today.
Yeah, thankfully that wind was not too bad and blowing the smoke actually toward the river, a less populated area, obviously, than downtown Louisville. But as you're heading out tomorrow morning, there could be a stray shower. Temps back in the lower and middle 70s, and then heading into the lower and middle 80s later in the day with those chances of showers and storms increasing in time. Max HG radar, one downpour off toward the west. Parts of Crawford County seeing some rain close to Carefree, English, and Marengo over the next few minutes. Otherwise, mainly quiet right now in downtown Louisville. That smoke still coming up and off of Whiskey Row there for your live Morgan & Morgan HG camera network view from Kentucky One Health. Still warm, 80 degrees, dew point at 70, a south wind at around 7 miles an hour. Cold front off toward the west. That will bring us rain chances as soon as tomorrow. We'll keep those rain chances going off and on really into the middle of your week. But the best rain chance of the work week is for your Tuesday, a 70% opportunity, lowering to scattered rain chances later into the work week. So have that umbrella with you as you're heading out the door and keep it in the car for the rest of this week. Futurecast for tonight, lows back in the lower and mid 70s. Those rain chances by morning off and on, a 40% chance in the morning hours, 70% chances late in the day as we heat things up into the upper 80s and see scattered showers and storms developing off toward the north and west, moving south and east in time. Lots of clouds right through your Tuesday night into your Wednesday. That will hold highs on Wednesday in the lower 80s, maybe a stray shower or storm with those rain chances again dropping from a 70% chance on Tuesday to a 30% chance by your Wednesday. The rest of your 7-day forecast will keep chances of showers and storms Thursday and Friday. Then once the rain exits for everyone, it's going to get hot for your weekend. Highs back into the lower and middle 90s at lows at night, back in the mid 70s. We'll be right back.
Well, we are now hitting the 7-hour mark here at 11:30, and the water is still being poured on those Main Street buildings as you take a look. You know, it looks bad, and it really is bad for the return of the original Whiskey Row. Now, by that I mean the 100-year-old bricks, the mortar, the wood that housed whiskey barrels from great old companies called Old Kentucky Distillery, Thompson Straight Whiskey, Grabfelder and Company. And the people who walked past these buildings those many years ago, Pappy Van Winkle at age 20, and George Garvin Brown, the founder of Brown Forman. His building's going to be okay, and Old Foresters is going to be able to put its distillery project in. Their buildings were not damaged. The headline of the night, a 3-alarm fire first spotted at 4:35 p.m. Workers were in the building, a construction crew, restoration crew, up until 3 o'clock. The fire brought it under control at 7:20 p.m. tonight. The late news we got just a little while ago, the facades appear to be able to be saved. The project to restore these buildings for Whiskey Row will remain. They are not going to go off the table for now. Let's go back to you, Renee, live here from the scene as the fire continues to have small hot spots.
All right, thanks very much, Doug. Good news out there, no injuries, and it looks like the project to revitalize that area can continue to go on. And Jared,
a lot of hard work for those firefighters in that heat today.
Yes,
a little cooler tomorrow, chance of showers and storms for the middle of your week, and then turning hot again for the weekend.
All right, thanks so much, Jared, and thanks for joining us this evening. We'll have continuing coverage on our website throughout the night, WHAS11.com, of that fire at Whiskey Row.